Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is your St Leger Festival preview at Doncaster. Well, we're not at Doncaster, but the racing will be. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined just by Andy Holding as we look ahead to a cracking Friday and Saturday of racing at Donny. Andy, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, looking forward to this 4-day festival, ending on a Sunday, which I think is the first time ever, if I recall.
Yeah, I think some better Sunday racing over this side of the Irish Sea is no bad thing.
No, why not? I mean, they have it a lot in France, don't they? They always have their best cards on a weekend, on a Sunday in particular. And over the jumps, for instance, in the middle of winter, your Punchestowns, your Naces, Navans, they have all their Grady race on a Sunday. So why can't we do it over here? Much better.
Yeah, too right. How we're talking of Ireland, how did you find Irish Champions Weekend last weekend?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, to be honest, by and large, the big race is a little bit of a disappointment. I thought Al Flaley was given a little bit too much to do by Jim Crowley. A couple of jockeys got caught out of their ground, including Jim. But it was a worthy winner. I found a few nice bets on the road. I was quite pleased with Rogue Millennium finishing second in that one of the big races to the good filly. A lot of the other races went according to plan. The rain kind of scuppered a few things on the Sunday. That wasn't meant to happen in the quantities it did, and we the City of Troy didn't run, etc. But by and large, Lumiere Rock winning was a good result. So it was a winning weekend, which is the main thing.
That is always the main thing. And then looking ahead to this week at Donny, how do you normally fare at the St Leger meeting?
Well, I quite like the fact that it's soft ground, so we all know where we stand. I think the forecast is fairly inclement for the rest of the week, so I can't see it drying out too much. So it kind of closes down the parameters, and you don't get a 20-runner field where you can make a case out for 15 of them. I think because you've got one extreme to the other, you should be able to whittle it down to a manageable numbers, and then course and distance form preferably if you can add on top of that. And then obviously the prices is the final icing on the cake, or the kind of where you sort of center your attentions around. So I managed to do that in this little segment we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, let's get into it. We're going to be going through the pattern races on Friday and Saturday at Doncaster, so the listed races and the group races, kicking off with the 150, which is the listed race, the Flying Scotsman, on the Friday. Before we do, just these are going to be best prices we're talking through from the oddschecker grids. We're recording this kind of about half an hour before the first race, or 40 minutes before the first race on the Thursday, so about 12:30. So prices obviously subject to change, especially the Saturday cards where we've only just got final decks and the markets are somewhat embryonic. But make sure you do download the oddschecker app so you can go through this with us. Best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and Andy's tips straight to the app every morning of racing. So the 150, the listed race, War Rooms is the 130 favourite ahead of Local Hero at 5-1, Warm Spell 13-2, Battle Cry 7-1, Kingdom of Riches 8-1, Dancing Gemini 10-1, Gushing Gold 14-1, Royal Zabeel 16-1, Ice Max 20s, Power Mode 40-1. Andy, 10 runners. How do you see the first race we're previewing, the second race on the card?
Yeah, well, it's a race I've been sort of looking at quite a way in advance because George Scott, who I did a little bit of work for, had Granny Budgie potentially entered up in this. And he also had 7 questions as well, but 7 questions are now going to be supplemented for the Mill Reef instead. And when he was toying with the idea of running Granny Budgie, I said, well, the horses you want to avoid if they do run are War Rooms, Warm Spell, and Dancing Gemini. And because they are entered, they came up on the entry column when we were looking at them. I think it was, would it be Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday morning, I think, yeah. We decided to go to the nursery, Granny Budgie, and let these good colts take each other on. And of the two, I think War Rooms and Dancing Gemini would be the two I'd concentrate on. War Rooms was hugely impressive when he made a winning debut over the course and distance, handling the soft ground in the process. So we know that he's got course and distance form on the likely conditions which are going to be prevailing on Friday. And he was very strong in the finish. And also he did a good time figure, for those of you that want to know where he stands on our sheet. Comes out particularly well. Not top rated. 1 or 2 others have had better chances of running bigger times than he has, but he's well up there already. And I think he's very much a horse that Connections will be hoping will make into a Group 1 horse further down the line. something like the Futurity, let's say, for instance, if he wins this, would be the natural stepping stone for him. And the other one out of the two is, or the three I mentioned, is Dancing Gemini. Only won a novice race last time at Newbury. I say only because I don't think he's got the form in the book as it stands that others have. But the time figure that he produced that day when he won at the Berkshire track was exceptionally good, suggesting to me that he could easily be up to this kind of level. And the form has worked out really well. There's been three subsequent winners out of that race. They finished third, I think 10th and 11th respectively. So I'd be more than keen, more than confident of nominating him and putting him up forward as an each-way alternative to War Rooms. Even though he's only rated 87, I think he's a good bit better than that. Certainly connections feel that way as well. They could have easily gone down a slightly easier route, but they've decided to roll the dice at pattern level third to fourth time up. So those would be the two.
Blowing that mark.
Yeah, exactly. War Rooms would be the number one choice, but Dancing Gemini, hot on his heel behind.
War Rooms is 130. That's best price and standout price as well with William Hill, 11-4, with most other firms up on the grids. Dancing Gemini is 10-1. That's with Ladbrokes, again a short of 7-1 elsewhere. So with both of those selections, really profiting if you make sure you check your oddschecker grid and shop around for the best prices. Do against the field. Presumably you'd be a win only War Rooms and just Dancing Gemini each way, or the win only the pair.
I might go win only. I'd probably have a point win the one, half a point win the other. That's the way I tend to sort of stake my my sort of strategy in races like that when I've got a couple against the field. But yeah, I'd be disappointed if one of those two don't give us a big shout.
Right, lovely. War Rooms and Dancing Gemini there in the 150. On to the 225, the 5 furlong Flying Childers Stakes, where Big Evs is the 7-2 favourite ahead of Inquisitively at 9-2. Flora of Bermuda 6-1. Killian 13-2. Valiant Force is 12-1 alongside Malk. Francis Maynell 14-1. Zulu Chief 14-1. Graceful Thunder 14-1. Toca Madeira 18-1. Fool's Gold 25-1. And Rosario 40-1 here. 12 runners, most firms already paying 4 places. Skybet already paying 5. Andy, how do you play this?
Yeah, I think the ground's going to be the key issue here. It might just be a bridge too far, maybe for Big Evs again. I know he got away with it at Goodwood in the Molecomb, but second time around against a better field, a stronger field than he took on in the Molecomb for me, might just come unstuck. And plus the fact that he was disappointing last time out on ground that he should have been a bit more productive on, let's say, in the Nunthorpe, definitely puts me off him at the prices, let's say. Inquisitively as well. Nice horse that's going forward in a rush, but all form so far today, 3 runs have all been on fast ground. So they take a huge chunk out of the market. And I think we're going to get some better value looking further down the lists. I think Flora of Bermuda is a standout one for me here, George. Really good winner at Goodwood on soft ground. She quickened up very well that day. From an outside peg, she's drawn 2, I think, of something like 12 or 13 runners. And it definitely paid to be on the stand side rail, but she managed to get over and across. And in the end, beat Juniper Berries very, very comfortably. Now, Juniper Berries has subsequently gone on to crank the form in no uncertain terms when she won the Dig Pool last week, if you recall, at Salisbury, winning a Group 3 on that occasion. So I think she's got the best form in the book coming into this on soft ground. I'd slightly forgive her a run as well in the big Group 2 at York last time out. She got there travelling really well at the furlong pole in the race that was ultimately won by Relief Rally. That was the Lowther Stakes. But she just didn't quite see out the trip on the ground. It was 6 furlongs. It was fast ground. I think the combination of those two factors definitely played against her. But back over 5, straight flat 5, nicely drawn in the centre of the field. Her cruising speed should get her there, challenging at the furlong pole. And I see her being a big player in this Group 2. And around about 6-1, as you mentioned just a second or two ago. I think that's a decent each-way price for Andrew Baldwin's fillet. Yeah,
6-1. That's a Bet365. William Hill, Bet Victor, Ladbrokes, and Parimatch. Most of those paying 4 places. If you want the 5 places at the moment, you have to go to Skybet, who are 5-1. But I'm sure a couple more may open up bigger later on. Onto the big race on the card on the Saturday. It's the Doncaster Cup, where Coltrane is the 6-4 favourite ahead of Trushan. At 15-8, Sweet William 4-1, Broom 11-1, the Grand Vizier 50-1, and Andy is Trushan going to get his ground?
Well, he's going to get his ground, but whether he's as good as he was, I don't really know, because he's had his ground a couple of times since missing like the Ascot Gold Cup, I think 2 years in a run, and he hasn't quite got to the heights that he was when he was a 4 and 5 year old. When I think he was in the peak of his powers, he's had his wing tinkered with. He hasn't run for 135 days, so they're going to hope that all that remedial work is going to work the oracle, so to speak. He got beaten this race last year, if you recall, at 2 to 5, I think it was, or 2 to 7, something like that.
2 to 9.
2 to 9. God, I'm making that performance an even worse one than it should have been. But yeah, Coltrane beat him fair and square on the day, I thought. And I think Coltrane, at the peak of his powers, might just be good enough to beat him again. He's such an admirable horse, Coltrane. We've talked about him many times, haven't we, on these podcasts, at Ascot and Goodwood. And he always just turns up and runs his race. And that's exactly what he did last time when he won at York. He just, he always puts a good shift in. He's about as reliable as you can get at these kind of events. So I think because of that, I'd prefer to put him up than Truchan, who you are taking a little bit of a chance with. Obviously, the fly in the ointment is going to be Sweet William, who I'd say was a disappointing favourite in the Eagle. Let's face it, he did finish second behind Absurd, but many did think that he was very well handicapped off a mark of 99. He's now got to run against confirmed older, more established stayers. If he is to sort of get in amongst this kind of like cup level that I think he'll probably find himself in now for the next couple of seasons. So as it stands at the moment, obviously he could easily be the new kid on the block, Sweet William, but I think Coltrane sets a really high bar, and hopefully he'll repeat his victory from 12 months ago under conditions that'll suit.
Yeah, Sweet William, the 4-year-old, is 4 to 1, and that is standout with Hills. Everyone else 7 to 2, basically across the board. Train 6 to 4, Bet365, Hills, Bet Victor, Coral, and a few others up on the grid as well. So Coltrane, the selection for Andy at 6 to 4, negatives around Truchan's chances. Move on to Saturday now, and kicking off with the 150, the Sham. Rosalian is the 8 to 15 favourite ahead of Iberian at 7 to 2, Mountain Bear 14 to 1, Sunway 16 to 1, and Power Mode 40 to 1. A little trappy little affair this, Andy. Can you find us a bet?
Yeah, not much of a betting heat really, unfortunately, because I do like Rosalian. I think he's the best colt that we've seen so far this side of the Irish Sea. To have Henry Longfellow and City of York flying the flag for Ballydoyle. And I think Rosalian can be sort of talked upon in those kind of glowing terms. The way he won last time at Ascot, hugely impressive, the way he bounded clear to win that listed race. Certainly, suggesting that, sort of group races could be well within his grasp further down the line. It's just the ground really with him that tempers my tears to say that he's a good thing at the price. I think he's the most likely winner, granted, but I think it'd be a little bit foolhardy of me to suggest we'll be piling in at 8 to 15. I do like Iberian as well. I think he's another horse on the improve, and at least he's got form with a little bit of cut in the ground at Goodwood when he finished second to Hartem, of course, in a similar level to the one he takes on Saturday. But yeah, it's a nice watching race, and I think we're going to learn a bit for the future. But I think Brazilian will probably win it if he handles the ground. But that's about as much as I want to be saying.
8 to 15, so no bet race really.
It's a no bet for me, right? Yeah. I think it'd be irresponsible of me to say he's a great bet, because if he'd handled soft ground before and I knew that that was going to be a factor which he ticked, then fine. But until he goes on it and he's proven himself on it, it's probably just best to watch him win and stay a little bit cautious and maybe just avoid that 8 to 15 shot. There'll be better 8 to 15 shots over the course of the weekend than him.
So on to the 3 o'clock then, which is the Park Stakes over 7 furlongs. Hopefully we can find a bit of juice here. 6 runners. Spycatcher is the 13 to 8 favourite ahead of Audience at 3 to 1. Sandrine 4 to 1. Biggles is 6 to 1. Jumbie 12 to 1. Pogo at the bottom 25 to 1. Andy.
Yeah, real strong choice here for Spycatcher. He's very much ground dependent, George. They kind of avoid fast ground when they can. They've had him entered up in many races over the course of the season, but they tend to plot their course and just go for where the ground takes them. I still can't believe he got beat it last time out in the pre Moisture Geese. I backed him that day. I think I took something like 5 to 2, and he went off 5 to 4, 6 to 4, and he got to the front, and I thought, we're in here. And then along came that pesky French horse, King Gold, and come and picked his pocket. I actually thought he'd won in the photo, but it went the way of the French horse. But that was another good run by Spycatcher, supplementing his victory the time before at the same track at Group 3 level. He very much needs 7 furlongs for me rather than 6.5. So everything looks set fair for him, really. He's got form here at the track as well at Doncaster, which ticks that particular box. You'd have to go back a long way to find that run, but it's still there on his CV. So everything about this race sets up perfectly for him. He's going to get good pace to run out, and imagine with Pogo in the race, should allow Clifford Lee to track him through and hopefully pick his pocket. Healthy respect for Audience and Sad Dream, who've got form in their own right at this level, but not to the level that Spycatcher's got at Group 1 level on this kind of ground. So yeah, he'd be one of the stronger choices. Put it this way, I think he's a better bet at 13.08 than Brazilian at 8-15 in the first.
Spycatcher, strongest selection there from Andy, 13-8. That's standout price with Coral as it stands right now. 6-4 is kind of market price across the board there for Spycatcher and Carbuck. Finally, then, last race we'll be previewing is, of course, the big one of the weekend. It is the St Leger, and Arrest is the 130 favourite with Frankie booked. Continuous 4-1, second favourite alongside Gregory at the same price. Desert Hero 5-1, Middle Earth 8-1, Tower of London 12-1, Chess Piece also 12-1, Alexandropolis 28-1, and Denmark 50-1. Andy, 9 runners for the Leger. How do you see this? Do you think the market's got it right after final decks?
Yeah, possibly. I think that the betting and the jockey bookings has very much dictated how the prices go now. We had Continuous course favourite we had Gregory favourite prior to Frankie jumping ship, presumably because of the ground. He's got to make a decision, and he's called it as it stands, which is very much in the favour of Arrest. You know, 3 of the 4 times that he's won have all had the word soft in the going description, including last time out, of course. Whereas Gregory, who he piloted in the Voltigeur, hasn't yet run on ground likely to be as soft as what it is going to be over the weekend. Of course, there are more rain showers forecast. So I think he's probably on the balance made the right call. And I think he'll probably go off even shorter than that because a lot of punters will get behind him. It's his last ride in a classic. He's riding a high profile horse for powerful connections. So I do think that 130 might be under pressure. I think he'll probably go off more 5-2. Doesn't mean to say we should dismiss Gregory totally out of hand, because I didn't think he got a particularly great ride in the Voltigeur when he was ridden a little bit too more aggressive. And he certainly played into the hands of the horses that were ridden off the speed, i.e. Continuous, who is a very solid horse. And I presume Ryan Moore will choose him of the Aidan O'Brien horses. It should be run at a strong run race. I think we need to mention that as well. Aidan, of course, has got horses that he can rely on here to perhaps make the pace, such as Denmark and Alexandropolis, the top one. So I think we're going to get a well-run Leger. And that, I think, will suit my selection in this race, which I'll get onto now. It's Desert Hero. This also could be a very momentous occasion. Of course, the King and Queen's colours haven't been carried to victory in a classic since Dunfermline won this very race many, many years ago. It's been a long time between drinks, but I do think they've got a genuine contender here in the shape of this Son of the Stars, who's very much worked his way through the ranks. He won at Royal Ascot, only winning a handicap on that occasion, if you recall, but he made the seamless step up to Pattern Company pretty readily, I thought, when he took the Gordon Stakes at Goodwood, handling softer ground as well, which I think is important. And everything about him is really likeable. He settles, he switches off, he gives himself a chance to get home. And I think actually the extra 2 furlongs will really suit William Haggs, his 3-year-old. Not saying the others won't, but I think he's unexposed at the trip, let's say. We don't really know how good he can be. But either way you strip it down, I think he's got a good draw. Pace will suit him. Track will suit him fine. And at 5-1, I think you said 5-1, didn't you? 5-1 top price. That strikes me as being a decent each way bet.
Playing each way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That kind of price, yeah, it just suits me down the ground. I'd imagine 1 or 2 firms will be betting 4 places as well on come the weekend.
Yeah, indeed. There we go. Desert Hero, the selection for Andy, having won at Goodwood last time and at Royal Ascot prior to that. progressive horse and Andy's selection for the big one on Saturday. Got a bit of trivia for you, Andy. A friend of mine sent me a message this morning saying that if Arrest is sent off favourite on Saturday and is beaten, it'll be the first horse to have been sent off favourite for the Derby and the Ledger and be beaten in both since which horse?
Oh, that's way beyond my pay grade, that one. Yeah, go on.
De Chantor in 1996, Andy. I thought you'd know that.
No, that's not. Wasn't on the tip of my tongue, that one. So that again. You say Arrest was favourite for the Derby and for the
Ledger and gets beat to be the first horse to be fab for both and be beaten both.
Right, interesting.
It's niche. I think my friend needs to get a life, but I hope maybe you'd surprise us all by.
Yeah, the only reason I was half going to query that because I can't recall Arrest being favourite. Of course, he was. He was sent off favourite in the end, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good bit of knowledge, that.
I think that's using the word good quite liberally around that. But there you have it. Arrest is not the selection. Desert Hero is the selection for Andy in the St. Ledger. And that is our final race we're covering on this Doncaster preview. Thank you very much to Andy, as ever, for showing his tips and insights. Apologies for the trivia. I'll work on it next week. I'll find something better for you. And thank you very much to you guys all for watching or listening to the show. Make sure you do download the oddschecker app for the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and Andy's tips straight to the app every single morning of racing. We'll be back soon, so keep your eyes peeled on the oddschecker YouTube channel. Subscribe there. You can find episodes of Racing Weekly on Monday and plenty more racing pods as we go. And also there should be a Ryder Cup preview coming up fairly soon with myself and Niall Lyon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. In the meantime, enjoy the racing and please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.